This week's theme on the Retirement Quick Tips podcast is, are the new Bitcoin ETFs a good investment? So all this week, I have been really hating on Bitcoin and the new Bitcoin ETFs, but it's only fair that we look at both sides of this coin. So today, believe it or not, I'm going to talk about reasons to consider Bitcoin and who might it be appropriate for. If you were going to add this to your portfolio, what would you need to know about it? And then tomorrow, I'm going to talk about some finer points of how much to own if you're going to invest in this area. I say invest, I mean speculate in Bitcoin, not invest. It's not investing, it's speculating. So the primary reason, I can't even stop hating on Bitcoin in the episode dedicated to not hating on Bitcoin, but I digress. The primary reason to buy Bitcoin is because you can potentially make money, and you can make lots of money. And this sounds obvious, but the reason Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general have attracted the amount of attention and just the sheer number of investors and dollars that it has is because of the returns. If you look at the historical track record of Bitcoin, it's had some pretty amazing years. It's also had some collapses. It's highly volatile. But during the period from 2011 to 2021, by the way, this isn't really fair because how many people knew what Bitcoin was, had even heard of it back in 2011? Like nobody. And so Bitcoin really only started to become very, very popular right around COVID, leading up to COVID, but especially during 2020 and beyond. But prior to that, it really wasn't anything that was on anybody's radars at all. But if you go back and you happen to hear about Bitcoin and invest in this area early, so in that 10-year time period, 2011 to 2021, Bitcoin's cumulative gains skyrocketed. You would have made 20 million%. I can't even wrap my head around that number. Now, this also included several price crashes. The market value eventually came back, but you can see it's a very volatile asset class. But it did make pretty good returns, especially if you were very early in the game. Now, by 2021, most of the people who are going to buy Bitcoin, I think were in at that point. It just attracted during COVID when everybody was just stuck at home and the government was dropping money out of helicopters. People had extra money. They had nowhere to put it. Bitcoin, more speculative investing really took off during COVID. So a lot of people were buying in 2021. In 2022, though, when the bond and the stock markets dropped, Bitcoin lost 62%. Then it recovered in 2023 with a 146% return. Now, Bitcoin is up a lot in 2024 already. A lot of that is because of the popularity and the money flowing into the new Bitcoin ETFs. But what's my point here? Well, if you can stand the extreme volatility and the frequent collapses, the price change on a daily, weekly, monthly basis is crazy. I don't have the stomach for that. Most investors do not have the stomach for that. But if you can stomach that much volatility and you want to speculate in it, because again, it is not investing in the traditional sense of the word, it is speculating. I liken it to going to Vegas. I mean, your odds are better in Bitcoin than they are in Vegas, certainly, but it is very speculative, very volatile. You could really lose your shirt. And so if you know that and you understand that, then it's something that you may want to consider. And I'll talk tomorrow about how much of your portfolio you would want to consider putting here. But again, I think when people hear that, they only look at the upside. Can you stomach a 62% loss in 2022? That's devastating. Almost everyone would say no to that. Okay, so the other argument of why I hear people say that they want to own Bitcoin is that it provides diversification. There's a couple of problems with this argument. One, Bitcoin and the stock market have tended to move in the same direction at the same time. So Bitcoin just moves at the extremes. People like gold because it can be a safe haven when stocks are falling. Bitcoin gets kind of thrown in there with gold because of some of the properties that it has as a currency and store of value and things like that, although they're not that great. It's no replacement for currency yet, but it gets thrown in there a lot with gold. And I don't think that's really accurate because it just lacks a track record long enough to establish any firm pattern of correlation to any other asset class. Nobody knows how Bitcoin can enhance diversification or enhance value. There's no track record there to demonstrate that. Only in the way that it is a completely different type of asset than stocks or bonds or even gold or other currencies. That alone makes it a diversifier. But again, you don't want to own things that are going up and down at the same time. That's the value of diversification, is that different investments move at different rates at different times. So I'd say the jury is still out on that one in being valuable tool for diversification. I think over time, with more history, some longer track record, maybe it'll prove to be a worthwhile diversification tool, but at least not for now. Okay, so if you're okay with the big fluctuations, potentially big losses, and you allocate a very small portion of your portfolio to this area, you could justify it. But I think the hundreds of millions of people who invest in Bitcoin are just at the party to try to get rich and profit off of it quickly. They don't really put themselves in the frame of mind that, okay, what would I do if it lost 50, 60, 70, 80 more percent of its value? Because that is quite possible. It has happened, and it could very well happen at any time in the future. And so for that reason, I'd say if you can stomach that, all the power to you. But 99% of people really can't take that kind of fluctuation with an investment and still hold on and not be tempted to get out. All right, that's it for today. Did I sell it? Did I give you reasons to buy Bitcoin? I don't know. Maybe not. I just want to fairly analyze this asset, this type of speculative investment, to give it a fair shake. So hopefully I did that today. But anyways, thanks for listening. My name is Ashley Michike, and this is the Retirement Quick Tips Podcast.